Okay, this is going to be my AP African American Studies midterm. Yeah, I'm going to put the slides up here in case I miss information or if you just prefer reading. This is really only for Miles because I know no one cares. But yeah. Okay, so my topic question was, why is African American vernacular AAVE so widely stigmatized as ghetto, and why or how do dominantly white societies reject it while also appropriating it? And my topic title is Stigmatized Voices, the Marginalization and Appropriation of Black Identity. The use of words like ghetto have been taken so far from their original context, and people only tend to use them in a derogatory way, dismissing their own behavior and hypocrisy. I will be addressing the appropriation and misuse of AAVE within predominantly white sex, and how it's a lot more than just slang. I'll also be unpacking where negative stigma stems from, the origins of AAVE, what it is, and common misconceptions surrounding it. Sources, if anyone cares, I have to do this so I don't plagiarism. Okay, the origin of ghetto, the Nazi Germany and the establishment of ghettos. Many people don't really know where ghetto comes from, and it leads to misuse and misinformation. Ghetto was not originally used towards black people. It was actually an anti-Semitic grouping. It originated in Nazi Germany to label areas of poverty that were primarily Jewish people. Following World War I, it was used to label Nazi-controlled cities. It wasn't until the late 20th century that it began to be used against black people, who were under segregation laws and forced into poverty. Also, we have to remember this was a time where black people were not allowed to read, write, vote, go to school. Because that was not until recently. Okay. White people using AAVE is beyond offensive. It's auditory blackface. White people, especially now, have begun to adopt AAVE and blatantly use it incorrectly. People of color face discrimination against the way that they speak and the way that they present themselves. They're seen as improper, disrespectful, and uneducated. Now it's a trend and people just copy it and use it incorrectly, basically mocking AAVE. The producers used AAVE, clearly wanted black folks' linguistic rhythm but not our blues. Rather than hire black writers, producers, and actors and address the discrimination in the industry, they hire white writers to use AAVE, a shameless pitch to black viewers. I don't remember what show or movie this was referencing, but I mean, it goes to show like how much that everyone is trying to strive for diversity right now, and they just get it wrong every time, and they're not trying to educate themselves or anyone else. They just want the token person. Yeah. So what is AAVE? African American Vernacular English. AAVE was coined in 1973 by social linguistic scholars describing vocabulary of many black Americans, not as a result of incompetence or lack of education, but as a result of the American case system, which is basically the system of poverty that white people basically set up for black people to be stuck in, and which is something that we still see with redlining now, which is what my last year's African diaspora thing was. I did redlining specifically in Milwaukee and Chicago. Words we use in everyday English have their own AAVE origin, and there are words that we might not think about much, like bogus, hip, cool, dig, and bad, like ooh, you're bad, and then tea, clock it, stuff like that. AAVE is not just a shortening of words. There is grammatical reasoning as well as history behind all of it. Okay, the casual appropriation of AAVE. White people tend to have the misconception that AAVE has no rules, ultimately using it in inappropriate times and grammatically untrue. People will use the excuse that it's Gen Z slang, and it doesn't fit. Oftentimes, white people use AAVE in a way that makes them feel like they belong in space. yeah. There's a very obvious mix-up between Chicano vernacular English and African American vernacular English. Though they have some similarities, they do not come from the same area. And when you mix them, it doesn't sound right and you look stupid. There are other cases, like in the LGBTQ community, especially with drag queens, with uses like slay queen, period, etc. The image on my slide is from the article that I pulled some of this information from. And she addresses that on SNL. There was a sketch that meant to poke fun at Gen Z slang, but it was literally just AAVE. And I think it's important to recognize that it's more than just like social media where this misuse is taking place. It's like in TV shows, movies, books, like the news. I've read books recently. I can't read books that were written past 2017 because they just fucking they use AAV wrong, especially in like just like queer books, and it's terrible and I can't read it. Okay, and I'm gonna be comparing some of my sources for the last few slides. So white people using AAVE is beyond offensive, it's auditory blackface, and the casual appropriation of AAVE. Out of all my sources, these are the most similar as far as like face value. There's quite a big time gap between when they were released or published, and usually that's not the case for journalism because journalism topics don't tend to hold their relevance for that long. So obviously it's something that's important. The difference between the two is that the first one kind of unpacked what AAVE is and the stigma around it, and the second one just got straight into its misuse. But she did take time to address a black accent, which is appropriation of the way Black Americans speak, and it's done by someone who is not a black individual. Some examples would be like they ate, they finna, about a drip, and extra. This is something I see especially prevalent in where I live, among like white and Hispanic individuals, just trying to fit in, and it does the opposite. Stop doing that. I mean, I have accidentally with TikTok trends, and I'm like looking at it now, it's like, oh yeah, you actually sounded dumb. Okay, and then my last two sources were Nazi Germany and the Establishment of Ghettos and African American Vernacular English, or Ebonics. Both articles take time to address the origins of words, the stigma, and the truth behind them. Upon first glance, you wouldn't really assume that they would have much in common, but the main point that I'm trying to make is that AAVE is widely stigmatized as ghetto, and it doesn't really fit the context at all, or the use of the word. It doesn't make sense when someone uses that to describe a person or the way that they speak. People are a product of their environment, so expecting a person from the south side to speak like a person on the north side just doesn't really fucking make sense. And it's ignorant. And just because someone uses AAVE does not mean that they lack like social awareness or exposure, or like they're uneducated. It's more of like a culture and an identity, more than it'll ever be just like slang. But yeah, that's the entirety of my slide. There's some things that I wish I would have added onto it that were in my ISP notebook, but I low-key ran out of time. I turned this in like freaking an hour before it was due. I had to get up at like 5 to write my slides, because I filled out the workbook like weeks prior. I'm lying, it was like 4 days prior, but yeah. I have questions that we're supposed to answer, but I have to pull up the... Yeah. Okay, bye. Okay, so the questions aren't coming up, so I'm just gonna kind of try to remember what the questions are. I know the one I got asked the most is where I got my inspiration for this. Within my school, I've heard our principals describe black students as ghetto for the way that they speak and the way that they respond. Disgusting. I've heard family members use it, which is just disturbing. Especially when, I don't even want to say that, but when you live in Milwaukee, like, I don't know what you expect people to speak like. And I don't want that to be taken out of context, but that's all I'm gonna say. How did I, like, source check? I was specifically looking for articles by Black individuals to give a more, like, personal, because I know that bias is a thing when it comes to articles, but I don't want to hear a white perspective on a struggle that they don't face. Ironic coming from me, I know, but it's the fucking class I'm in. Whatever. Okay, and then, was there anything I learned? Yes, actually, because no, sorry. My biggest thing was some of the slang that, or not slang, some of the AAVE that I thought was just slang and I thought was predominantly used within LGBT communities was actually AAVE, which is kind of embarrassing. I kind of found out that I was using some terms incorrectly, and that's not my proudest moment, but I digress. And then I think the only other question I can remember was, did I learn anything that I haven't previously learned in class? Yes, all of it. Schools don't really teach you much about Hitler, Nazi Germany, AAVE. We slightly skimmed over African American vernacular English in African diaspora last year, but it was like a week-long unit, so not much. I think that was all. I'm gonna double check to see if there was anything else. Let me fucking say, I'm scared because I didn't pay for my my AP final, like, for the end of the year, so I might not end up getting the credit for the class. I know that I'm supposed to be doing service in order to like, pay for it, but the service that I was supposed to do in order to cover the cost of it, because it was like $60, so I'd need like 10 hours. They canceled it. It was supposed to be Advent by Candlelight, but there wasn't enough interest. I got the freaking questions. Shut the fuck up. Why is it doing this to me? Hold. Okay. Oh, okay. How did my sources connect to my topic in ways that I wasn't expecting? I wasn't expecting to get such like a spot on article that addressed exactly what I was looking for. Like, pretty sure one of the sentences that was in my ICP ISP document was exactly used within the article. Also, one of my friends, she always asks me why I'm all up in her Kool-Aid, and in one of my articles it was like, white people are always all up in our Kool-Aid but don't know the flavor, and I thought that was funny, and I was like, so now I know that's you, but that's it. Miles, I know you're the only one who watched this. I love you. Kisses.